Hello friend, my name is Raza Masood. Today we will discuss about a topic configuration management system. Friend, this topic we will discuss with respect to the concepts of PMP or PMBOK. So it's basically a topic pertaining to project management. Let me tell you that most of the people can understand, they heard about the change management or change control system, but most of the people don't know about the configuration management system, that what is the basically purpose of configuration management system. So I will try my level best in this tutorial to explain the main concept of configuration management system and what is basically purpose of CM configuration management system. So first of all, I would request to please subscribe to my channel and click on the bell option. So let's start our tutorial. Configuration management system is primarily a version control system for the product of the project. According to the PMBOK Guide 6th edition, configuration control focuses on the specification of both the deliverables and the processes. Friend, before going into deep for the configuration management system, let me give you an example. Let's assume that you are project manager and implementing a project for your customer. You have completed the development of 4 modules and you have given it to the QA person to do the QA of the modules. You are very sure that the modules are okay and it should be the QA, the quality assurance should be passed, but you wonder, it's very strange that QA person failed, that the deliverables are not okay. So you discuss with the QA person to discuss the ambiguity, what was the reason he failed the developed modules. When you discuss with the QA person, you get to know that the acceptance criteria or the scope document which he has, the QA person, it's different, and the scope document or acceptance criteria which you have as a project manager is different. So the acceptance criteria or scope defined between for the modules are different, different version. The document which you have for the scope is different as compared to the document which QA person has. So that was the reason due to which the QA person has failed, and you have noticed that QA person has the latest version of a scope document and you don't have it. So this was the main reason QA person has failed. So what was the reason? The reason is that the latest version of the scope or acceptance criteria has one party has the latest version and one party doesn't have the latest version of scope, due to which the issue occurred. This was the one example which I have given you. One more example I want to give it to you, just to just to give you the understanding of configuration management system. uh, uh, as you know, maybe you know that in the Second World War, the Germans were defeated by Britishers and Americans. One reason was that the tanks of the German army were not working properly. They were having some problems. What was the problem? The problem was that when basically these tanks were using in the war, and the tanks were having some problems due to they need some maintenance, and the parts the for the maintenance which German army was providing for the tanks, the parts were okay, the parts were correct, but the installation of parts in the tanks as per the model, as per the need, was not okay. For example, the part was okay, but it was installed in the wrong tank, or the part was not properly configured in the tank due to model differences or maintenance differences. So that was the reason that the army was providing the right parts, but they were not installing properly, they were not installing correct version of model in the right tank, due to which the tanks were having problems and they were become malfunction in the war, due to which they have to face one of the reason that they have to face defeat against British army or the American army. So this was just an example. Just consider it as a concept to which I want to give you the concept of configuration management system. Now try to understand, friend, configuration. What is the concept of configuration? Friend, configuration means the identified and documented functional and physical characteristic of a product. This is called a configuration. The functional and the physical characteristics of a product is called a configuration. Let me give you an example. Physical characteristics means, for example, just consider this car. The car is having a white color, it has 4 wheels, it has 4 doors, it has a windscreen. So all these are the physical characteristics which you can touch and feel. So these are the physical characteristics. Similarly, it has some specific functionality. For example, it can run more than 100 miles per hour. It is the functional specification of this car. You can understand, the functional specification means it can run more than 100 miles per hour, and physical characteristic means its color, its tires, its windscreen, its headlights, etc. So these are the physical characteristics, and functional specification means the characteristics which belongs to functionality, like it can run more than 100 miles per hour. It is the functionality of a car. So both these two terms, physical characteristics and the functional specification, both these terms basically made up the configuration of a product. Physical and functional specification make the configuration of a product. Okay, so configuration means the physical characteristics, also the functional characteristics or specification of a product. That is called the configuration concept. Now the key elements of configuration management systems are, what are the key elements? Key elements means, first, version control. Version control means the ability to check the work into a common repository, retrieve it any time to see any changes done by anyone, and maintain full version history. What does that mean? It means that you need some common repository at which you place all the things there. Things mean, for example, all the specific documents, scope document, project plan, risk register, communication plan, all these important documents, source code, you maintain there, and the latest version should be available. Also the older version would also be available at that particular common repository. So that if you need at any later stage, you need the older version, for example you need the older version of project plan, so it should be available and you can backtrack that document if it's required. So this is called the concept of version control. Now next is the baseline and release information. When was the last version released, what did it contain, and having a baseline version to deploy at any time. uh, Friend, I hope you understand the concept of baseline. Baseline concept is that when you initiated a project, the scope, schedule, all these things are basically agreed and finalized. For example, you have to give 5 modules to your customer within 5 months. So 5 module is basically the baseline for your scope, and 5 month is basically the 5 month is basically the schedule baseline. And for example, within the cost of $5,000, so $5,000 would become the baseline cost. So baseline concept is that you can measure the things, measure the performance of your work, of your project, against the agreed or decided baseline. For example, if the baseline cost was $5,000 and you have completed the work in $6,000, so that means you have overrun $1,000, so that means you were not okay. And if you the baseline cost was $5,000 and you have completed the work in $4,000, so that means you have you were under the you were not overrun and you have saved $1,000. So this is the basically concept of baseline, that you measure the things with respect to the baseline. Baseline means the agreed scope, agreed cost, agreed schedule, so that you can measure the things accordingly. So baseline and release information means that when was the last version released, what did it contain, and having a baseline version to deploy at any time. Baseline version means the agreed version which you can measure at some later stage. Next is audits and review. Audit of the person to ensure that people are actually following the configuration management and version system properly, correctly, consistently. Audit means, friend, basically audit means that you check that people or person of a stakeholder of a project are basically using the correct version. Like for example, they test the system, they check the stakeholder whether they have the correct version of scope document, whether they have the right criteria of acceptance, whether they have the right characteristics of quality checks, etc. So these are basically a test. Audit means test to verify the things, whether the correct versions, whether the correct documents people have it or not. If there's any difference, so it should be corrected. If people doesn't have the right version of a scope document, it should have the so people should have the right version of scope. Next is documented process. An agreed upon process by all team members to ensure compliance in actual implementation. No point having a great system that no one uses or uses at random. That means the process of configuration management system should be documented, that how you will use and how what is the criteria where how you will use the configuration management system. This is not the case that some people are using, some people are not using, some people using it on ad hoc basis, some people are using it on general basis or regular basis. So everyone should have to use it, should be documented, and everyone should be responsible to use it as per the agreed process, and the process should be documented, should be in a written format. No, the process of using configuration management should be documented properly. Then next is the build, integrate and deploy scripts, means common standard scripts that automate the work of building, testing, integrating, deploying and removing manual errors from the process. Standardization of the process and its implementation is the key here. Friend, try to understand the configuration management system should be automated, means that it should not be a case that all things should be handled manually. Like you should use some sort of software should be used for configuration management system. It should not be a case that people are manually copying the files, manually picking the files. So there should be some software, some integration software built, and the process of configuration management should be automated. It should not be a manual management, because see, when the manual versions applied, many time it happens that the if persons are manually copying the latest version of scope document, so they can miss it, they can miss the latest version, so and the older version can be circulated. So the process or the configuration management should be, and the integration within the stakeholder should be automated. It should not be a manual process. Example of configuration management, one example is airline. An airline tracks the parts of components in its aircraft for purposes such as maintenance and safety. If a particular part is recalled for safety reasons, the airline can immediately determine where the part is installed. That means the airline means that they are using a proper configuration management system. They know which part is installing in which aircraft. If it has any problem, how we can replace or recall that particular part, and what was the problem. So in airlines, the configuration management system is very strong because it's a very critical system. So the configuration management system in airlines are very strong. They know it very well that which part is installing in which aircraft, and what was the problem and why it's replacing, and how to recall any part if it has having any problem. Similarly, in banking system, configuration management is very strong. A bank keeps track of its software components, database, infrastructure, facilities in a configuration management database for purposes such as services, support, incident management, and IT risk management. For example, let me give you an example. All banks normally have ATM system, automated teller machines, to for bank for the payment transactions. So all banks have a very strong system of configuration management. Why? Because they knows I'm just giving you an example that they knows it very well through configuration management system, that which ATM is placed in which location, what are the parts installed it, and what part, if there is any part is not functioning well, so when it will be going to replace, when it's replaced, what was the error, why we are replacing it, and where we have placed that ATMs, etc, etc. So configuration management system in banks is very strong because they need it the strong configuration management system. Now coming to the last, I would like to inform you that the main concept of the core concept of configuration management system, the core management the concept of configuration management system is that it's a generic umbrella term for all the activities that reduce the risk of integration failure due to component changes on the project. It's a high level definition concept. Let me try to relate it with the banking system. If you have, if banks are running hundreds of ATMs, and so many parts are for example due to maintenance reasons are replacing, installing, and malfunctioning, etc. So configuration management system is that whenever you are replacing or installing any part into the ATM system in banking industry, so bank knows it very well that which part at which location of city the ATM we are replacing, and what was the reason, and the change control system, or I mean the configuration management system is very strong. And due to any change, like for example you are replacing a part with new part which was malfunctioning earlier, so ATM should be working properly, and there is should be the centralized system was available, due to which you knows it very well that why ATM was malfunctioning, what was the part, and are we deploying the right part, correct parts, installing it in the ATMs or not, and after installing the part the ATM was working or not, etc, etc. So the changes which are coming due to routine works or routine maintenance of ATMs, the configuration management system is so strong that all the things keep smoothly running and there should not be any problem. So now coming towards the same definition again, it's a generic umbrella terms for all the activities that reduce the risk of integration failure due to component changes on the project. If you can just relate this definition to the banking system or ATM system, so that you can relate this definition with the with that ATM definition, with that ATM example. Friend, I hope you like this video. I have tried my level best to explain you the concept of the configuration management system. If you have any question which you have in your mind, please do ask from me. I want that you become my team, and just try to get the concept of project management or project management ideas, how we can improve the project management knowledge within our team, with our friends, whoever is watching my videos. So I want to share my knowledge, and I want from you as well that you support me, and ask any question, any query in your mind related to project management, so that I can answer. If you want any specific video from me, so please do ask from me. I would love to answer your queries. And thank you, and thanks a lot. I have taken lots of your time. Thank you, thanks a lot. That's all from my side.